Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. We are back, final show of the week. Today is Friday, TGIF. I'm super excited to have an old friend on the show. She's not old, but we're old friends. Lena Morris is here. I am Entreprenista. We're going to talk about smashing goals and breaking ceilings, all sorts of great stuff. She's an amazing, amazing human being, and I'm super honored to have her on the show. Welcome, Lena.
Thank you, Ted. I'm just glad to be here with you today on this Friday, end the week off with a bang.
Yes, we're going to kick that all off. Here we go. So I love this topic, which I think I mentioned. But before we take a deep dive into that, can you please share with them some origin story? People love to know where you came from, kind of how you got to where you're at. I have no doubt in my mind that you've always had an entreprenista spirit. People like to know the journey on how you kind of made that into your own and created this world for yourself. So give us a little origin story if you don't mind.
I will. So just, briefly, I am a product of four generations of entrepreneurs. And I did leave and go out on my own journey. And I worked for PBS and NPR. That's how I ended up in Orlando, Florida. And then got laid off and started on a journey to really dig into being an entrepreneur. But I went into the style, makeup, and wardrobe portion. That was my first business, my first
That
studio.
explains a lot. You're always so polished and look put together, always dressed to the nines, looking amazing. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
That was my life for years. And, I failed miserably at my first businesses. I mean, at one point I was homeless.
Wow.
Oh yeah. So it was I had to make some hard decisions and ended up staying in my studio for about a month with, because that's how much I believed in my goal. But at that point was so new to the journey, was just downright embarrassed to tell anyone about it. So just plugged through it, suffered through it. And I like to tell people and clients and audiences that I talk with, if you have, a fire burning in you that much to be an entrepreneur or a business owner, that's how following your dream, that you will give up. And that story, my story is not unique to what it is. There are so many people who follow their dreams and they have to have those obstacles. But, I am at the point now where I'm very transparent that I have failed much more than I have.
Me too.
Yeah, one. And it's just, you have to learn from it, like the absolute test of my quote is the absolute test of one's character is the ability to lose as gracefully as you win. If we can master that, everyone showcases when they win, right? But we, typically don't talk about when we fail, but we learn our greatest lessons sometimes when we fail.
I think the failures are what people want to know, not because, well, you got a small group that aren't rooting for you, but most people are rooting for you. And so learning from those failures, I think it's great if we can educate anybody. And as you're sharing your journey and your story, people can learn and go, wow, I was thinking about doing that. Maybe because Lena didn't have success with it, I should tweak it a little bit. That's what these journey stories are all about. People look at us and we're on this show and they go, oh my God, Lena's got it all together. She's never had a bad hair day, a bad makeup day, a bad business day. And that's not the case. And I think people need to understand they're being so hard on themselves because of social media and their comparisons and things like that.
Yeah, social media has definitely changed things, and I just ask people to take it in doses because everything is on a stage, but to understand and have that group of folks that are in your inner circle that you can share with. And that's one of the things that if I could go back and tell myself at that point, that to understand that I wasn't the only one, right? So just afraid, embarrassed, and trying to figure it out alone. And even knowing that I came from a strong family of entrepreneurs and didn't want them to know that I had failed. So didn't want to tell anyone. There was like 2 people in the world that knew at that time, and they were trying to help me. They were in different states and trying to help me. Then, again, I got up and running and I built up a celebrity clientele and I had a studio, I had a TV show, and then I got sick right? Like sick in the hospital for 45 days. So thank God for who was
Wow.
my husband. Yeah, he was my fiance at the time, and he's the reason he found a way for me to get on his insurance and get, because I had my own business. So many of my entrepreneurs and business owners know what I'm talking about when that is not the primary thing for us. We're not thinking about, investing the money in health insurance. We should be. And sometimes we don't want to talk about it because we know we should be, but it happens. It happened to me. And it's one of the things that I talk to clients about, and I talk to people about going forward, because it's one of those things that you never realize that you need so much until you're in that position. So, I was sick. And so I was sick for 6 months, and we had just upgraded. And, my fiance at the time, he's my husband now, we had just upgraded and gone to a bigger space. So we had invested, most of our funds into that, and opened another business that had inventory. So we had stocked with inventory. We got in a commercial space. We had done upgrades to the space. And then I got sick. So for 6 months, I couldn't work at full capacity. I was running my team still, but I was losing a lot of the clientele that specifically wanted to work with me. And then, like I said, I ended up in the hospital for 45 days and had 2 surgeries. And on the day of my second surgery, as I was being wheeled in, I got a text message to say that my TV show was canceled. So I was like, so those are the things that you write the books about after, because when I came out of that, I was in a really bad place.
I was going to ask you, so how do you come out of that? I think there's people that are feeling that right now that are watching. I think people love to hear how somebody helps dig themselves out of that.
So, I'll tell you a couple of things. So it was I will be so transparent. It was a bad place. I was depressed. So I just had surgery. I was, not mobile as I was used to being mobile. And I got a call from a colleague, and I didn't have ego. So ego and pivot, not having ego and being able to pivot are 2 things that I will say have always helped me to be able to be resilient and just be able to bounce back in a sense, because I have gone through many, many things. So, I got a call from a colleague, and she asked me to come down and help her with some things. There was a new president at the African American Chamber of Commerce. She asked me to come on and do some consulting with her. And so, I went down and did that. And most people who know me know that I spent a few years, although I told the president at the time, John Davis, that I was only going to help him for a week or 2. I ended up being there with him for several years. And during that time, that's when the Entreprenista was born. So a couple of things happened. So the first day when I got to the chamber to help, there was an email that came through, and it was a huge email about an event. And my family's business logo was at the bottom of and I was like, okay, wait a minute, regroup. And so I actually sent my uncle a message. I was like, you really should have. And it's a construction business. I just have to lay that out for you. So
Sure.
They never thought that they'd get the girls involved. They always wanted to get my brothers involved, but I kind of sent a message, and I was like, hey, you should have really taught me the business, instead of thinking that my brothers were going to take over. So fast forward, right now, I am actually he's named me his successor. I am I am working as the vice president of our business, and I've been named his successor. And
that's amazing, Lena. Congratulations.
Yeah, and it's definitely a part of smashing the goals and breaking those ceilings, because in construction, there's only 8% women, less than 8% women, and the number of African American women is so low, it's not published. So
wow.
Yeah.
So you're really making strides in your industry, in that industry.
I am hanging in there, trying to make sure. It is not easy. It is not easy. And it's not easy because I have a very eccentric background, right? So, as you said, I have I like my clothes, I like my accessories. It
Yeah,
totally
construction doesn't seem like that would fit in with you.
no, it totally makes folks uncomfortable sometimes when I come into the room, and so that's been interesting. And you have to just kind of get to a place where you're comfortable with yourself, where you'll make some changes to send the message that you want to send,
Yes.
but that you don't lose yourself. And I think for women, I think for creative folks, I think for people who break the mold, that's something that we have to deal with all the time, right? You know, I love your jacket, Ted, but some folks might be like, you know, but it's making a statement. I think that's something that we have to deal with all the time. So that's part of what happened there. And then, the Entreprenista came about because
I love that name, by the way. I
thank
love the
you.
spin that you put. I like that. It's hard for people to even spell entrepreneur. I get it. It's not an easy word. But creating that and kind of making it your own, where did that come up? It's one thing to be an entrepreneur, but you created the concept of entreprenista. And I love
Yes,
it.
I created it, got it trademarked. It's been a journey with that as well. But I was talking to my mentor, and I was, my mentor at the time, and I was telling her, I don't want my legacy to just be, and this is when I was initially transitioning from out of the, wardrobe, hair, makeup, into going back into consulting and more business. And I told her, I don't want my legacy to be just beauty, right? Just hair, makeup, because people tend to discount you sometimes, unfortunately. And I want them to understand that I have this strong business background, this strong entrepreneurial spirit, this fourth generation. And she said, well, you need to just keep pushing. And so I would present ideas to her, and I would be devastated because I would think it was the best idea ever. She like, no, she shoot me down. She's like, no. She said, go push harder, go push harder. And I'm just like, oh my God.
She saw something, she saw more potential. She knew you had more to give, and you were piecemealing it to her. You weren't giving the whole thing. So she wanted to break it down so you would give it all.
Right. And so I woke up out of my sleep one day, and I was like, because the same thing that you said, entrepreneur is so hard to spell. So I came up with, I came up with this trick when I was doing it, but I was like, what if I mixed entrepreneur like fashionista, because I do have such a background with that. And so then the Entreprenista was born in my head probably 6 or 7 years ago. And that's when I started the journey with getting the trademarks and setting up that business, because I feel like I'm glad she pushed me, because I feel like that's a reflection of who I am. I bring both of those sides to the table, and I'm passionate about both. And Entreprenista was born.
So what business, explain your business, because I think there are people out there who want to consult, who want to do more. They have ideas, but they don't know how to kind of mold them into a way where it's a workable, fundable, survivable business. So tell us a little bit about your actual business model.
So I will be transparent. A chunk of my time is taken up with the family business, because I do pretty much all of the operations and BD, business development, marketing, and kind of second in command with that. And then we just launched another business, which I'm the managing partner on, during COVID. And so what I did was I refined my business. When I initially launched it, I was doing business coaching, and I was taking on more clients. And I said, you know what? I get so involved with my clients that I need to take a step back and understand what I'm going to offer. So now I do VIP packages with clients. So I have a certain number of clients that I keep on, and it's basically more clients that are in that stage, that second year, they're looking to grow their bottom line and create infrastructure within the business, and want to go after potential like government contracts and so forth, because I have a very strong background in that. And so I take them on, and it's a minimum 6 month, but more like a 2-year process, because it takes that long to really develop. And we look to increase businesses by, some of the businesses that I've worked with, it's been 500% increase in their business. So one of the businesses that, I coached, they were average contract was 75K and now they're doing $5 million.
Wow. So how do you, okay, that's fast. I think a lot of people would like to know what it is. Do you take apart what their processes are now? Is it a long process in order for them to get to that point? Because I think having an outside person like you, it's just the way a lot of businesses really need somebody who's got the experience, but also isn't enmeshed in the
Right.
day-to-day operations. They need an outside, honest opinion
Right.
about things. Even though we say we don't want it and we're the leader and I own my company and what are you going to do? It's so critical to have that outside influence, I think.
And Ted, I've been on the other side because when I had one of my, locations, one of my mentors came down and was going over things with me, and she was like, "You need to close this location. You're bleeding money. You're losing money." And I was like, "How dare you say this to me?"
Exactly.
I cannot do. This defines me. How can I can't close this location? And she was like, we need to really be looking at the numbers. And so, I say that from a place of understanding and empathy with business owners making hard decisions. So some of the things, there's many different scenarios, but one of the scenarios that I can tell you is that, the business, why I say businesses that are already established, because you do have to have money to work on your business and not in your business. Those are two different things. So working in your business is being granular and actually, running it, not getting the chance to get out, work on your business, which is having conversations with people who can move the needle, who can help you get those, I call it those large ticket items that carry you through those contracts, So, one particular business they had already been in, but they were missing a few pieces, right? So they needed an advocate and they needed someone to look at their infrastructure. And that's what happened. I went in and looked at the infrastructure. And then because of the relationships that I had with other businesses, was able to connect them at the right time. Because the other thing that you have to be careful of being a smaller business is that you don't scale too quickly, right? And I personally have done that. And was one of the reasons for one of my failures. So I'm only speaking from experience, right? So
I tell people you have to grow with your growth. You cannot all of a sudden launch and you don't have the infrastructure to handle the deals that come in, because you get that one shot, right? You get that one opportunity. People are like, all right, Lena, I'm going to give you a chance. And if you don't have the infrastructure to back up all these promises, or you all of a sudden get so busy that you're feeling like I need to grow and you don't grow with that, then you are setting yourself up to fail.
Setting it up for total failure. And the reason I can speak so confidently about that is because I have done it.
Yeah.
One of my business scaled so quickly. I didn't realize I was going to scale so quickly and was like, okay, wow, what do I do? Right. I'm trying to catch up now with the demand.
Yep.
So that's an important point, to sit down and have a really honest conversation, because I used to have clients, and even when I worked with other organizations, clients that say, Lena, I want to work with this company. I want to work with this company. And I'm like, okay, if they came to you today and offered you a contract, could you support that contract? Right.
Right.
And a lot of times they would have to step back and say, no, they actually couldn't. Okay, so let's work on how to get to the place where you can support that contract, because when it comes through, the other thing is that I have really been able to help folks with, and have helped my company, the family company with, is strategic alliances and teaming. And that's one of the things during COVID, I would really suggest partnerships. I would suggest not trying to carry the load on your own, but to look for like-minded folks.
Collaboration. I agree 100%. It's so funny because I do so much of this, and I'll bring people on that might be considered competitors with each other. And I'm like, you guys have to stop thinking from that lack approach. It's got to be an abundant approach. And collaboration can get you to your goals a lot of times much faster
Right.
than you just trying to figure out how to maneuver through it. So the strategic partnerships that you mentioned, the alliances are so critical. And yet because we think, oh God, I don't want to share anything because Lena might take my idea, or and you don't want to think like that. That is thinking from not from abundance, I believe.
And so you always should be smart, right? Because I've been in situations where I've shared too much and
I
have
have too. I agree.
and have had things taken. So so now I try to be very wise about my decisions. So like with the Entreprenista, I didn't, until I had gotten certain things in place, I didn't totally launch it because I'd had 2 and 3 ideas before that I launched prematurely, kind of taken, and I still had to deal with some things, but I was in a better position. So I think that as we educate ourselves as business owners and entrepreneurs, that we timing is everything, and we have to be willing to have the hard conversation. So if
Yeah,
there's another thing I could go back in time and tell the younger version of myself, is you can't be afraid to have those hard conversations.
agreed.
When you have to be, you have to be okay with saying, hey, this is not okay. What does this look like? We need to put this on paper. Instead of just, okay, I'm just going to go along with it and hope it gets better and think it's going to get better. And then you find yourself in a situation and you're developing maybe resentment, or you're losing money. And then, regardless of what anyone wants to say, if when it comes down to your business bleeding money and losing money, it definitely makes you have certain reactions, and we don't want to do that. You want to keep yourself keep yourself grounded, because once you have those reactions, you can't take it back. And now with social media, I notice people will sometimes go on rants and so forth on social media, and I'm like, oh my goodness, don't do that.
They go on so many rants. But I think it's important too, and then I want to ask you before we start to wrap it up, about you had something recently where this is big news for a person of color, a woman of color. But I think that employers, entrepreneurs need to also empower their people to be transparent and authentic with them without fear of retribution. I hear that a lot. I've experienced that, where I'm afraid to share sometimes things that I know would be helpful if they're open to it, but that I'm afraid that they will take it in a way as an employer, not in the most positive light. And so we have to find ways, I think, to encourage our staff, our employees, our partners to be honest and open with us without fear of how we're going to react. If they're doing it in a way that is positive and for our best interest, I don't know why we would shut that down. But that's what I hear from a lot of people, and I've experienced it too. All right, I have to ask, you have a big thing. You're president-elect. Tell us about that.
Yes, so I am a part of an organization, the National Association of Women Business Owners Orlando chapter. So we are a local organization with an international and national reach. And so our chapter here in Orlando has been established for 25 years. We just actually had our 25-25 initiative on September 26th. We turned 25. And so I am the president-elect. I will be installed as president in June of 2021, and I'll be the first. So I'm the first woman of color to be president-elect, and I'll be the first woman of color to be president. So definitely huge, wonderful strides.
That is so amazing.
I'm very excited. I'm excited that we are. So I'm encouraged, because I would hope as we continue into going into 2021 and so forth, we will have less first of, right? Because I would hope that just across the board, we would just
we would
be embracing we would be embracing just everyone's just gifts. But it's wonderful to see with the National Diversity Inclusion and Acceptance Initiative that we have, just to see it trickle down home. I'm really excited to be able to serve in that capacity. and the capacity now. Our current president, Cassie Willard, working very closely with her to have some things done. And we're making plans for this year and next year. And it's going to be a great big party. So, I'm going to have you there, Ted.
I can't wait. Listen, what's crazy when I'm listening to you, and then I'll ask how people can reach you. But I'm listening and I'm thinking it's 2020, and we're still talking about firsts. Sometimes that is overwhelmingly crazy to me. Like the fact that you'll be the first woman of color president-elect and then president, and that we're going into 2021. That's why people, I think, need to embrace the fact that we need to make changes. That all of the screaming from the hilltops is worthwhile, and we have to pay attention to it. So I think it's amazing. And then part of me is like, why did it take so long? It's crazy to me.
Yeah, all right, change is good and
great. Is good. I think you are rocking and rolling. You're obviously smashing goals and breaking ceilings, not to bring that back, but I have to do that segue. Tell us how people can reach you if they want to learn more about what you do. They want to learn more about the organizations you're involved in. What's the best way people can reach you, Lena?
So you can follow me on social media because I try to stay active and share. I am involved with a number of community organizations. And so I believe that I'm tagged on some of the, and my link is on some of the promo for the show. I am Entreprenista. The website that's there is my website with my email, and you can always email me to get in touch with me, and I will respond. And I am rolling out a new podcast. So then a lot of things. Yeah, I have a partner. We're tying some things up, and we'll be rolling that out. But I think it's important because it's going to talk about some of what we're talking about, just the nitty gritty, some of the things that people don't want to talk about, that they're like shy away from. We're just diving right in, and because it needs to be said. So the social media, Facebook, and the website are the best ways to reach out to me. Email. I'm great with email, and I'm great with responding to you on Facebook. That's what I would say is the easiest.
I agree. All right, Lena Morris. I am Entreprenista. You are amazing. You know how much I love and appreciate you and all that you do in the community. I think it's so awesome. Always positive, and I love that you shared those obstacles. Guys, you are facing obstacles. We all have faced them. So if you want to reach out to Lena, learn more about what she's doing and how she did it. She's obviously an open book and such a joy to have on the show. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe too much of an open book, but hey.
I love it though. Authentic, vulnerable, transparent. These are my favorite words because why? Then I am not smart enough to keep up with not being that way. I can't just pretend. And I think a lot of people spend way too much energy on pretending. And I think it's so much better if you can just be honest. So I love what you're doing. Lena Morris, I am entreprenista.com. Go visit her, go find out more about what she's doing and support her organizations. Congratulations to President-elect. I'm happy for you. All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. You're amazing, Lena. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. We'll be back next week. See you.